Hello, I'm Ben Reed, and today I'll be talking about exposure. Exposure is the overall amount of light the camera sensor takes in. In simpler terms, exposure deals with how bright or dark your image is. Shutter speed, ISO, and f-stop, also known as aperture, all work together when dealing with exposure. But before we start, make sure your camera is set to manual mode. Turn the wheel on top of the camera to M, just like this. We're going to start with shutter speed. We're going to keep things simple. Most of your projects in this class will be shot at 24 or 30 frames per second. All you'll need to know about shutter speed for now is that you need to keep your shutter speed at twice the frame rate of your camera. If you're filming at 24 frames per second, set your shutter speed to 50 on the camera. If you're filming at 30 frames per second, set your shutter speed to 60. You can see the shutter speed here on your LCD screen. You can adjust the shutter speed on the camera by moving this dial. Once you set your shutter speed, you can move on to adjusting your f-stop or aperture. The f-stop refers to how open or closed the aperture is. Think about how your pupil becomes bigger or smaller when adjusting to light or darkness. Your camera works the same way. When the f-stop number is low, the aperture is more open and more light enters the camera. Your image will be brighter with a low f-stop number. If you make your f-stop number higher, the aperture will be open less and the image will be darker. The f-stop also controls your depth of field. A lower f-stop like f1.8 will blur out the background and be more focused on the subject. If you want more of your image to be in focus, set your f-stop to a higher number. Here's an example of shallow and deeper depth of field. When filming outdoors, it may be necessary to use a neutral density filter, commonly called an ND filter. This filter further reduces the amount of light entering the camera and allows you to achieve a shallow depth of field while shooting outside in sunlight. Here are some examples of outdoor shots with the ND filter. The final way to achieve a brighter image is to increase the ISO. We want the ISO to be our last resort, as a higher ISO introduces grain or noise into the image. Shooting outdoors in bright light, your ISO should be set to 100 or 200. Indoors, you may need to boost the ISO and increase the brightness of the image. Be sure to set your f-stop how you want it first. Here are some examples of videos showing different ISO settings. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helps you achieve correct exposure in your videos, and I will see you guys later.